go. We have quite a bit to cover today. I'll make this as painless as possible for you and give you as many exercises as we can get you through, and then we'll let you get back to the rest of your day. As usual, anytime you have questions, just interrupt me, ask away. And again, just to remind you, I am not a big fan of forcing you to put your cameras on unless you're going to talk to us. So if you're going to talk, please turn your camera on. If you're not and you want to eat or drink or something, I'm okay with that. Some other people are, but I am. All right. So you had a tiny bit of homework to maybe work on. It wasn't a directly assigned exercise, but I'm just curious if any of you would like to spend a minute or two and share with us any epiphanies or ahas that you got when coming up with a way to answer what are you working on, whether it's a direct answer or whether it's a simile, an analogy, or a metaphor. Anybody come up with something they'd like to share with us today? And just give me a second. I got to shut the light coming in. If the sunlight's too hot, it gets me, it ruins all the camera work here. So, all right. Anybody want to share something that happened between yesterday and today? And no is okay, but usually something has happened. Nobody? Nobody? All right. You sure? Going once, going twice. All right. That's okay. That's okay. I get it. It's late in the day. Just wanted to remind you, these are the simplest ways for you to be direct with your audience about what you're doing and why it's important. Please make sure that we understand what the value is of what you're doing. The value is key to getting people emotionally connected to what you're doing. All right, how about similes, analogies, and metaphors? Please tell me somebody's come up with something interesting between yesterday and today about how you can have a Forrest Gump moment with your business. Come on.
I spoke to ChatGPT about this.
Okay.
Didn't really, we didn't talk about ours yesterday. It mentioned one that I thought was interesting.
Please share.
It's like adding a warp drive to a spaceship, is what I got. I kind of like that one.
Yes. Tell us what that means in terms of relating it to your business, because I love that. If you're into, the space and Star Trek and all of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, warp drive is instantly valuable.
Yeah. I guess it's like a spaceship is a pretty complex thing, right? Which
Yeah.
is a database already is. And it's already pretty fast. But adding something to make it even like go beyond that, I guess is what I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Because like kind of a lot of deep tech stuff, and we're making it even faster. But it doesn't really say anything because the we turn water into money
Yeah.
thing that was
Yeah.
already on the subject of water, and this is kind of totally just it's not directly connected to a database or whatever. But
It doesn't need to be. It's
no,
directly
okay,
connected from a speed
yeah,
function. And so
right,
that's what's working there is the fact
yeah,
that when you throw a warp drive into a spaceship one
yeah,
day, I mean, the value of speed comes instantly into our minds.
right,
And the word warp, even if you're not a Star Trek or a space fan out there, I
yeah,
believe the word warp drive instantly makes everyone understand speed. He's talking
yeah,
speed. So
right.
I personally love that for
Yeah,
you.
I liked it too, and it was ChatGPT. It wasn't me that came up with
Okay.
it, but yeah,
All
it
right.
was great.
Well, that's the whole benefit of something like a GPT is to
Yeah,
help you break through that creative block or help you get to the word or phrase in your mind by giving you stupid examples. And all of a sudden you come up with, oh, warp drive, and it didn't help you. And that happens quite often as well.
yeah,
So please, everybody,
yeah,
just take this as a good example of using something like GPT to get you into a point where you go, whoa, that really does describe, whoa, yeah, it's like a relief, wasn't it, Oscar, to come up with that? I was like, oh, it's like,
yeah.
yeah,
Like it gave me like 10 options, and I found some that I thought were good, and then I
mm,
asked like, give me 10 more in that kind of direction, and then
yes,
this popped out, and it was like I mean, it was
All
perfect, I
right.
thought. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. And now you just need to test it on real people like us
Yeah.
and others and validate it as it works for them. I know it works for me. How about the others on the call with your cameras on? Just hand up if that worked for you. All right. All right. Not for you, Oscar? Wyden? Yeah.
Yes, of course. I thought
Okay.
you, yeah.
Okay. And if it didn't work for you, that's okay. It's all right. Uh, but I'm pretty confident that just the words warp drive bring up the image of something going much faster. And not only that, you can go up warp 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that kind of a analogy could go a long way, towards your future vision of exceeding warp 5. Today we're at warp 1. Yes, and go ahead.
I just have a question because I'm struggling sometimes to understand how specific and detailed I have to be in these cases. Like the situation when we turn water into money, what I think could be very relevant for us is if we say, for example, we make regulatory pressure a pain-free memory or something like that. But is that too simple, or do I have to be a bit, or should I go further down and explain how we do that?
Depends on who you're talking to. Regulatory pressure might not resonate with every single person you talk to. So what I would do right after that, if you're not sure if they understand what regulatory pressure means, I would just try to go very quickly to, for example.
Mhm.
We do this, for example, and then give us an example that you feel might resonate with the person you're talking to. Your answer was fairly short. That sounded like about 5 or 6 words. Could you say it one more time, please?
We make regulatory pressure a pain-free memory.
All right, so it's about 7 words. That's, a pain-free memory, which means that something in the regulatory pressures or in regulatory causes a lot of pain. For those people in that arena, I'm pretty sure they would resonate with that. If we're not, we need an example or something other than regulatory pressure. You might need
Okay.
2. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Remember, the whole point of these is to help your audience understand the value of what you're doing without necessarily describing all of the details and function of how you do what you do. Okay? And to get them curious, interested, and wanting to know more. Okay? All right. And it could also be where if you're standing on the sidewalk outside of Nordic Innovation House, and somebody says, what do you do? And you say that when it comes to regulatory pressure, blah, 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 pain-free experience, you can instantly say, what do you do? What are you working on? Or some question that will lead you to what you can say next. And it could be a friendly question of, do you spend time around the regulatory world, or are you not in that world? Oh, I'm not in that world. Okay, great. Then you know how to choose an example that might resonate with them versus, oh yeah, I spend my life at it. Oh my God, thanks for saying, yeah. Then you can go a different direction. Any others? Thank you, En. Any other questions or another simile, analogy, or metaphor people come up with? Nope. Okay. This is something we can always work on when we're together in our one-on-one sessions. Fantastic. All right, so now let's jump ahead to May 18th, 19th, when you're going to get on an airplane to come out here. And when you arrive here, from the minute you step into the Nordic Innovation House, in that welcome, you're going to be asked that question over and over and over again. And once they know your name, it's like, so what are you working on? It's not a very common question you get in Scandinavia unless you are in a startup event. But out here, even if you're not in a startup event, you could be having a cup of coffee down at the Copa Cafe, a 5-minute walk from the house. And somebody looks over at you and says, hey, Oscar, I see you have your name badge on, Oscar, just in case you didn't know, you left it on. I'm just curious, what are you working on there? What is that, Visaro? I mean, people will literally just look over at you and say, what are you working on? What do you do? Because everybody around here, we would like to know, we like to help, we like to connect, we like to learn about stuff that we can tell other people. It's kind of selfish in a way, but it's fun. And you never know who you're sitting next to. Never, ever know who you're sitting next to. So when you get to this welcome, just remember, one of the most common questions you're going to get is, once they know your name, so what is Visario? What do they do? And then on May 22nd is the big day, or the big night. It is pitch night, and you have 3 minutes to pitch. Strict 3 minutes. You then have 3 minutes of Q&A with 3, maybe 4, but I think usually 3 investor types. And even if they're not in your space, it doesn't really matter, because this is not a situation where you're going to pitch and hope to raise money that night. That's not the point of this whole incubator, accelerator. This is to make connections and to learn what you need to do in your business to scale and go bigger and enter the US. So this is not and we're raising money and we'd love to sit down and talk to you about raising money. I mean, if you are, you can say that. But in general, you want to let them know what you're working on, and I will help you with that during the one-on-ones. And today I'm going to give you some pitch frameworks that you can use as a way to start formulating your 3-minute pitch. As you can already imagine, you cannot cover everything in 3 minutes. And that's not the point. The point is to just give them enough so they can help you with whatever you need help with that day. Maybe it's introductions to people. Maybe it's your business model. Maybe it's your revenue model. Maybe it's, I don't know, how to deal with your competition. Maybe it's, how do I get into corporates? Okay, so just come with an open mind, and when you're done with the 3 minutes of Q&A, then you get another 3 minutes of the investor's time, which is referred to as non-rebuttal feedback, which is you do exactly what you're all doing right now, which is you're just quiet and you listen to what they have to say, and you can nod, you can but you can't talk during that 3 minutes. And if you try to, I will be very careful and gentle in shutting you down. I mean, seriously, you just have to remind yourself. Sometimes you can't stop yourself from responding, but this is a chance for you to just listen to what they have to say. It's usually something that they feel that you can do to make your pitch better. Maybe you left something out for that particular investor and they say, you know, I really missed your financial projections. Okay, well, that's on you. That doesn't mean you have to add it to the next pitch. It just means that for that particular person, you missed on something they usually like to see. That's going to happen every single time. So when somebody says, you know, you didn't cover your financial projections, yep, you're right. I only had 3 minutes. I had to leave some things out. What would you like to know about it now? Now, this program and the investors that OSA picks for your panel will never beat you down. They will not. This is not that kind of a situation. This is a very friendly, but they will give you some tough love. They will give you some tough love. Now, my job is to make sure you don't have to deal with that tough love as much as we can. For example, if they have to tell you or ask you a question at the end of your pitch, and the first person says, you know, what do you do? I'm not sure on what you actually do. That's not good, folks. And if you work with me, you will not get that response. You will be clear on what you do. So that way they can ask you the next level of question to get more detail from you. All right, so that's basically the structure of pitch night. All 9 of you get your 9 minutes of fame, and then there'll be about a minute transition over to the next person. All of the decks will be on one computer. You'll walk up, you'll grab the clicker, you'll do your thing. Generally speaking, one person does the presentation. On occasion, 2 people will, but it's only 3 minutes. So we generally recommend, unless it's absolutely in your hearts that you both want to share the pitch, have one person do the pitch, and then the others can come up and join you for Q&A. That way you don't have to answer all the questions. So you're all making this effort, 2 or 3 of you are coming out. You can all come up for Q&A. Have I said anything wrong, Åsa, or anything you want to add to the pitch night?
No, I think
Okay.
you were, yeah.
Yeah, we've done it 24 times, so I think I should have it by now, right?
Yeah. And I think you mentioned, right? I mean, it's investors that know that
Yeah.
not everybody's, you know,
Right.
fundraising or in the most value is really in the feedback. And yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
They've seen tons of pitches. They can give you incredible feedback. And they have their networks of people that they know. So remember, you're not just talking to that one person, you're talking to everybody they know. And even though they might not be in your field of endeavor, they have people they know who probably are, or they're one or two
Yeah.
steps away from somebody
Yeah.
that they know. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions on pitch night? There'll be more details about the rehearsals beforehand when you show up. We'll have time to go through all of that later on. I don't want to take too much time on that today. But in our one-on-ones between now and when you come out here, I hope that after our first session, you'll start working on your pitch and then be ready, like pretty close to ready when you get here. That's what I would do. I mean, you don't want to be working on your pitch too much when you're here. You want to be out networking with people, going places, having coffees and teas with people. You can fine tune it once you get here, but please just get it all done before you get out here. And that way, when you get here, if there's anything that happened while you're here or something Shomit said to you on Monday and it changes something about your business, you fix it in the deck and you change it for Thursday. Thursday? Is Thursday May 22 or is it Wednesday? I forget. For May 22. All right. Wednesday. Remember, it's only 3 minutes. How many slides is usually a question I get? As many as you need. There's no limit. And there's no rule that says a 10-minute, 5-minute, 3-minute presentation should have X number of slides. Really doesn't matter. It's as many as you need. Åsa or Nelly, do you prefer Google Slides or PowerPoint, or does it not matter?
It does not really matter
Okay.
for us. Whatever
Okay.
you are most comfortable with showing.
Okay.
But that's a good question, though. We will have it all set up for you, no matter the format that you're putting it in.
Okay. And there'll be a clicker for you. There's no
Yes.
microphone needed because it's a small room, so you'll just talk to the panel, which will be maybe 2 meters, 3 meters from where you're standing. And then the audience will be only you, all of you, and very small number of invited guests. This is not a public event. All right. Okay. Great. That takes that. Now, in the Q&A, remember that you win and lose the hearts of your investors during Q&A. You don't really win in the pitch. I mean, you can get them on your side during the pitch, but it's how you treat them and yourself and the answers to the questions that you get during Q&A. So I have 40 of the most common questions investors like to ask you on my website for you. It's at the bottom of the page. Just click the button, top 40 questions, and take a look at some of those questions and find a couple that make you sweat. And then let's work on answers to those questions, because you're not going to have the answers to every question ever. Not May 22nd of this year, next year, or the year after. So I want all of you to be absolutely comfortable when you get that uncomfortable question you've never heard before, or that uncomfortable question that, oh, I wish they wouldn't have asked me that question today, kind of answers. Because I have seen people completely go from the heights of ecstasy answering questions to crumbling when they get a question that either they've never heard before or they would prefer not to answer. Like, so what kind of management challenges are you having on your team right now? It's like, oh shoot, did you have to ask me that right now? They won't ask you those kinds of questions. In TINC, it'll be mostly business type questions that you'll get. Nothing will probably trip you up, but I do want you to be comfortable, because there'll be other situations where you'll get questions and you won't even know what they're asking, and that's okay. Or you're just not ready to answer, which is okay. It's just how you reply and how you respond. We can practice all that during our one-on-one sessions. So anytime you want to work on that, let me know. All right, so let's go back to Oslo for a minute and revisit the log line for a moment, because I would like to just make sure everybody knows that the log line can be used quite often in different places when you're pitching your business. We've already talked about the value proposition, the one-liner. We've talked about similes, analogies, and metaphors that you can use as a hook or a way to get people engaged. But you can also use your log line. So what is a log line? Just as a reminder, because there was a lot going on in Oslo and a couple of you weren't there. A log line is something that comes from script writing and Hollywood. So when a script is turned in for a director to decide whether or not they're going to read it, they don't read all these scripts. They don't read them. They look at the title, which is, as you can see on the side of the paper, and then they look at the log line. The log line is what that guy behind there has. He gets a sense of what the movie is all about, and he writes down what is the movie about. So when the director picks up the list of 29 scripts that came in that week, they go like this. Oh, that one looks interesting. Give me that one and I'll read that one. And so when you're in your business, I want you to kind of think of a log line not as a movie, but you are in a movie. Pretty much. I mean, your startup is a movie. So how can you turn what you're doing into a log line that gets people curious to want to know more about your movie? Here's an example. A boxer gets a chance to fight the world heavyweight champion. So what? Right? It's like, it's too general. It's what a lot of startups would say about their movie. But if you said something like, a small-time Philadelphia boxer with some good verbs and descriptors inside gets a supremely rare chance. Now, this is a movie. You don't have to use, we are supremely blah, blah in what we're doing. But the idea of putting together a line like this for what you're doing in your business could instantly be one of the most memorable things they've heard that day. And it also gives them some idea of what you're doing, so they can now ask you questions or say, wow, that's so cool. I'm going to call you next week. I want to find out more. So it's a hook. It's a way to get people curious, interested, and wanting to know more. You know this movie, right? Rocky. How about this? How about this movie? Computer hacker learns from mysterious rebels about the true nature of his reality and his role in the war against the controllers. Tom, I see your face knows the answer. The Matrix.
I'm hoping Matrix, yeah.
Yeah. When a lonely robot tasked with cleanup duty on an abandoned Earth falls in love with a probe, he chases her back to the human ship to try and win her affections. Anybody know this movie? Yeah, there we go. Right, Oscar with a K, Wally with an E. Okay, so in our one-on-ones, if you want to dial in your log line or log lines, because sometimes you might want a log line for a customer and a log line for an investor, depending on what emotion you're trying to get them to consider or think about or feel when you tell them what it is your log line is. Now, this is just one of several different ways of captivating people's attention with a single sentence, maybe two, but generally one. All right, so I don't want to spend too much time on this because we spent a bucket of it in Oslo, and some of you came up with some really cool lines when we were there. So I would leave this in your hands, and during one-on-ones, I'm happy to go over whatever you've come up with and help you amplify whatever you're coming up with. Okay? That's my superpower, by the way. My superpower is helping you break down whatever you think is great and building it back up to make it better. And it can always be better. Everything we do can always be better. And that comes from a good friend of mine that runs the incubator at MIT. And 14 years ago, he said, you know, I get all these cats coming into my office saying, I've got the greatest piece of software. This is the best. This is the what? And he says, okay, great. Now let's sit down. Let's break it all down and build it back up and make it better. And ever since I heard that, I was like, yeah, that's kind of what we do all of the time. That way you don't get too much in love and attached to one particular pitch deck or one particular way of doing a demo. And that opens up the possibilities of you just having more fun every time you have to pitch or demo or present. Okay, next we're going to do a little bit of work because it's very important for your friends at the Nordic Innovation House to be able to introduce you to other people. And that typically starts with an email introduction. Okay? This is very short, to the point, no long ass stuff, no attachments, no nothing. It's a friendly and a warm introduction. When Åsa says, "Dear Frank, I'd like to introduce you to Scott from Intutu." Now what? So this is up to you. And so for what we're going to do here is just give you some guidance as to what you can put together. And then I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do it right now. Because the faster you put something together, the easier it will be to modify it and tweak it and beautify it and make it into something that Åsa can actually use. So I hope you come up with something today that she can actually use, but don't worry if it's not completed, but we want to get it started today so that this is not something you want to be doing when you're here. In fact, hopefully some of the introductions might be able to be made before you get here. All right, so let's take a look at a basic email introduction. And if you already have one, that's great, but I just want to talk about the main 4 or 5 things that are important. First of all, who are you? I'm Scott. I'm the founder of Intutu. Blah, 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 blah. 2 or 3 sentences at most. Or maybe 1 is all you need. The shorter, the better. The more concise, the better. The easier it is for them to say yes, the better. And Åsa very rarely gets a no. Second, what are you working on? Hey, don't these things sound familiar? 1 sentence. 2 sentences. What are you working on? It could be a simile, it could be an analogy, it could be a metaphor, it could be a log line, it could be literally, we are doing this so that this happens. Okay, cool. I want to know more about that. So it can be anything we've worked on since Oslo and yesterday and today. Third, what do you want to discuss? Don't leave it open-ended. They want to know, what do you want to talk about? And please don't use words like, I have a pet peeve about this. I'd like to pick your brain. Don't say that. It's not a pretty sight when you think about picking somebody's brain. Use some other term, right? I'd like to talk to you about. I'd like to explore your background in X because we're struggling with Y. That's it. That's enough. They want, and also we'll maybe change the email. It says they want to meet with you because this is what they're working on. So things like that. Or she'll copy and paste it. Right, Åsa? Don't let me put words in your mouth. All right, that's it. That's it, folks. That is really it. But there's one more thing. Is there something that you can offer to them? Something, some value you can bring to them. This is sometimes a little bit of a hard one. But if you can say, if you're meeting with somebody in big data like Schomit, and you're in big data, and you've got some little report on big data, you could say, and Schomit, I don't know if you've seen the report on X, Y, and Z, but I'd love to bring a copy for you. You know, something where you can show that you're not just there for them to give you, you're there, maybe you can give them something. Or, that's a tough one, but if you think hard enough about it, you can come up with something that they might say, wow, that's a really interesting offer. I can't wait to meet them because I'd like to hear what they're offering there or what they're talking about. You know, maybe you look at their LinkedIn profile and you realize, wow, they're connected to somebody I know in Holden. Then okay, so you say, and just I noticed on your LinkedIn profile that you're connected to so-and-so in Holden, and he happens to be a really good friend of mine, and he gave me a message to give to you. You know, it could be anything. Honest, authentic, and, you know, substance, not empty calories. Something solid nourishment, if you can. If you can't get number 4 in, then generally I would recommend in the meeting itself, try to find something you can do for those people, for them, without expecting anything in return. Because in the startup world, we're constantly asking for help. Always. or advice. But remember, you're all smart cats too. You can offer advice. You can offer help as well, not just to each other, but perhaps to an investor you're talking to. Again, I'm just picking on Scott because he's sitting right in the middle of my camera right now, but in toto, maybe in tutu, maybe there's something with the investor you're talking about or that you want to meet, and they're connected to all the waterways of California. You know, what could you do for them? I mean, that's not a hard one. Maybe we can show you how this can happen. It's like, don't make huge promises, but perhaps we can do this for you. And they go, oh, maybe they can. That's all I'm asking you to think about how you can reciprocate. Yes, Åsa, please speak.
Yeah, no, I thought it reflects how well you prepare, right, for the person you're going to meet with, that you know a little bit about that person, what they're interested in, or if it's an investor, maybe they invested in something that's complementary, or, you know, or you have a product that's actually valuable for their portfolio companies.
Mhm.
Or just like what I usually say, you know, kind of lean in a little bit to what you're after is feedback from them, right? So building it on their expertise, what they're talking about, and say, you know, with your, and a little bit of flattering goes a long way, right? Like flattering, but like you're interested in them. So, and then maybe most of them are going to be interested in knowing about new technology. So I always throw that in, if nothing else, you know, like this should be interesting for you, you know, hopefully interesting for you to know what we're working on, or on, you know, and because you guys have very unique knowledge and products. And so, but it's important to kind of think about what's in it for them.
Yeah.
It's a very important thought to have in your head, because they're giving you, you know, your time. But we can talk maybe a little bit about this later as well, in terms of not only the introduction, and remembering that you're selling the meeting, not the product at this point.
Right, right. And there is an unfair way of trying to figure out what's important to the people that you're meeting if you haven't already played with this. Occasionally, I will go to someone's LinkedIn and I will copy everything in their LinkedIn about and everything I can find on them. I'll stuff it into GPT and say, in a sentence or two, what's the most important thing in this person's life? What do they value the most? What keeps them interested? You know, just pump it a little bit and boom, now you know, oh, they're into soccer, they're into football. Okay, well, maybe there's something in football you can say, or generally business related, but it doesn't have to be business related. If you coach soccer and they coach soccer, maybe there's something you can do there, but I would try to make it business if possible. When you write this email, please feel free to leave brackets to be determined. You know, if you don't know exactly who you're writing to, this is more of a template that you're putting together so that when you ask for an introduction, you can say, and this is why we want to meet them. And then Åsa can take that one line and put it into the paragraph that she already has for you, or just give her the whole paragraph to make it easy.
And I like to say, just write it in third person if you're asking people to forward it for you. Of course, you can just also forward and say, hey, look at the, you know, here the info from the founder below. Yep. But if not, then I always have to rewrite it. So the example that's in that document that you got a link to, where we are going to put this information, it's the example is in third person.
Good.
And we might have to revisit that. There might be better examples than that.
Okay.
I think you get it, what we're after. Yep. Make it easy for the person that you're asking. To say, you know, that's the thing.
Yeah, to say yes, right. Okay.
Or easy for the person to introduce. That's another thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay then. So
what I'd like. Did we talk about double opt-in? Do we talk about it here or not? We can maybe we can have a separate on all this after.
Yeah, let's talk about that right after the break. I would like them to take the next 10 minutes before the break and write out what you would like your initial template email to be for Åsa to use as an introduction. Just get something started and then pop it into probably an email would be best for you, Åsa. What would be the easiest?
Sorry, I muted.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe too much to put in the chat. So maybe just email it to them and then, or actually put it in the document. Nelly sent you guys a link. We can post the link again in the chat, maybe.
Yes,
that's where you put all your other information. Because I mean, we do have your info and applications, but things change, so we want to make sure we have the current info about you.
Perfect.
That's why we track it in this little Google Doc.
Okay. So then with that in mind, the link will be in the chat window. There it is. Nellie just put it in there for you. So when you're done with your basic template and make sure it's grammar checked and everything, just copy and paste it into the document for now and be done. And then if you want to change it, you know where to go the next time to change it or add more. That's the key, to make it easy for Åsa and her team to be able to do what you want them to do. So I'm going to set a clock for 10 minutes. And then when that 10 minutes is up, I'm going to give you a nice 10-minute break. So for the next 20 minutes, 10 minutes on this exercise, it shouldn't take you much more than that to get something written. And then we'll start up again at 10 minutes past the hour. There's no need for me to review your email at this point. I'd be happy to do that in a one-on-one meeting. You can CC me if you'd like when you send it to Åsa, but consider that your exercise for now, and then we'll start up again at 10 minutes past the hour. Okay? See you soon. And I'll start a clock. Whoops, there we go. There we go. Appreciate your time. And I want to make sure we continue to maximize your time. I'm hoping we are. So thank you very much for doing that email exercise. And hopefully, Åsa, you have a nice, and Nellie, you have a nice contribution to the page, the document. And again, please feel free to update that anytime you wish. You have access to it at all times. Is there anything you want to add to that, Nellie or Åsa?
Maybe oh yeah, sorry.
But yeah, as
Yeah,
much
go.
info you can add in there would be very helpful for us since we're building the company profiles to share with our network and so on. So all the info that you can put in there is very helpful for all of us. We will start posting and promote you on our channels starting today. So that would be great. Thank you.
And on the node where you are, you can also go, we talked a little bit about it, but if you see in the general information, there's something called meetings, Silicon Valley style. So a little bit of tips on how to get the meetings, and there's a link to like the Silicon Valley etiquette. It's with that double opt-in that I mentioned. It's kind of an old article, but it's still very much how it works today. And then also it has an example there of the, intro email template and what we talked about today, both for if you ask someone to introduce you and if you're going to do a direct intro yourself, and a few like advice in there for the meeting itself. So take a look at that, and then maybe we can also talk about that, because this seems so basic, but it's so important.
Right.
And I see so many people that do this the incorrect way, and it's not that, like Nathan said, we get yes often because they know that we bring good companies, but you kind of have to do this the right way, and you have to reply right away and be very polite in your replies. And there's a little bit of an art to, there's a little bit of culture difference as well between the Nordics and the US when it comes to these kind of, both setting up and having the meeting. So, but maybe we can also talk about that. I don't want to take more time of you, Nathan, but I feel like maybe we should set up some time to go over it at some point and a little bit more, because it's so critical for you guys to get these meetings. And you're going to ask Nathan, you're going to ask me, you're going to ask Daniel. And that's, if you don't like reply and do all this the right way, then people are going to kind of stop introducing. I'm sure that's not going to happen to you, but I've had some of the people in the past say, I don't want to do any more introductions because they don't reply right away, or you reply like not with maybe the right tone of voice, or it's right. A little bit of people giving you their time. So it's being aware of kind of how that works.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe work on this today, take a look at what's on the node, and maybe we can use one of the Friday sessions for it a little bit more.
Okay. Happy to do that. And there should be time at the end here that we can also cover any of that.
Yeah, we can maybe go and take a look at it then, and I can share the screen. Yeah, perfect. Thanks,
All
Nathan.
right. Sure. Okay, our next topic is a couple of tips I want to give you on stories, so that when you share your stories, you could potentially be getting more impact from them than you're getting right now. And so some minor modifications to the way you share your stories can do that. First of all, as you watch TED and TEDx presentations in your future, I hope that you look at them not only as edutainment and education, but you can learn an awful lot from these people going up onto the red carpet, because they're all doing the things we're talking about. How do they captivate the audience's attention in the first 15 to 20 seconds? What do they do with their arms, their hands, their faces? When do they pause? How do they pause? How long do they pause? Why did they pause? Look at the effect of that pause. Kind of a detailed analysis. So as you watch these in the future, I encourage you, look at sort of the behind the scenes. How did they just make me feel this way? And they only said one thing. Things like that. There's so much that you can take away from these TED Talks and TEDx Talks beyond just the content that you're being given that can help you in your pursuit to be the best you can be when you're presenting or communicating. Because I think that's a general goal we all have. Even if we don't like to present, we still want to be the best we can be when we're up there, right? I mean, that's a safe assumption. But why do stories work so well? Every trainer needs their 3 something, so here are my 3 R's. We all relate instantly to stories. We remember stories longer than we remember most other things. And my favorite reason is people will retell your story. This is the big one, because if you can get people to retell your story, you just never know who's going to hear that story. And the easier it is for you to have people share your story with other people, serendipity is going to come your way more than you can even imagine. One of the best storytelling tips that I've ever learned came from an improv class I was taking a while back, and it was this. When you start a story, often we find ourselves saying things like, many years ago, when I took this improv class, blah, 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 blah. But a better way to be more specific and get your audience more engaged with some of the basic facts or images that you want people to come up with in their heads is you use when, where, who. When and where first, and then the who last. Because if you leave the who for last, that means your stories are probably not going to all start with I, and I. So if I was to relate the story, instead of saying many years ago, I would just say, roughly around June 15th in 2017, I can remember my first of 8 weeks of improv classes once a week for 2 hours. One of the first things I learned was this tip. So see how I gave you the when and the where to engage you with some pictures maybe popping up in your mind, something in your June of 2018 maybe, but at least you knew roughly the time. And I didn't give you much of the where because it was a virtual, but this is powerful storytelling. When you listen to yourself telling any of the stories you tell right now, where you give the when, the where, and the who, you will also think, wow, that is more engaging. It's just a fact. I can't stress enough. It's easy to do as well. When you are sharing your stories, it's important to use the art of concision. Meaning, keep it short, keep it tight, keep it to the point where they get it and now they want to know more. Whether it's a story that you include in your 3-minute pitch, maybe it's your origin story of how did we come up with this idea in the first place? Why did we come up with this idea? The next thing you know, boom, they're engaged because they just are listening to your story. So for your 3-minute pitch on the 22nd, please don't try to think of writing a script and doing all of that crazy stuff that we might do for a longer pitch. It's just 3 minutes of you sharing your story and making sure that they know how they can help you. And we'll cover the pitch decks in a moment so you know roughly the basics of what you need to cover. But concision is key, because then you will get more feedback. You'll have more interactions with people because you're not doing all the talking. The less we talk, the more opportunity they have to talk. And aren't you there to hear them talk? I would hope so, especially in your mentor meetings. I mean, they're going to want to hear you talk as well, but the idea of getting them to respond to what you're looking to improve on and scale on or get clear on is only available to your ears when you're quiet. So when you're sharing stories, there's always a beginning, a middle, and an end, although none of our stories here have an ending yet, hopefully. But when you share your stories with people, it's okay to not cover all the parts of the story just to make the one point that you want to make. So if the middle of the story is not that important and the details are like, ho hum, no, it doesn't really add to the impact of the story, leave it out. And just go from the beginning and say, now let's fast forward to today and skip the middle, right? Or skip the beginning and the end and just go to the end. I'm sorry, the beginning and the middle and just skip to the end. You know, I could tell you all about how we ended up in jail, but let's just go to when we were there, which is kind of the end of our story from a long night. Who cares about the beginning and the middle if you already know I'm in jail and okay, tell me more. It's not the kind of example you'd use in startup land, but you get my point. It's okay to leave parts out, and if people want to know more, they'll come talk to you. They'll ask you. One of my favorite ways to keep you thinking about using your time wisely when you're sharing your stories, whether it's a networking event, a pitch event, or just a casual coffee with people, is to think in terms of movie trailers. Just give us the essence, enough to stay curious, and then shut up. Just be quiet. The more you give, sometimes the more okay, I guess I know the movie. Now I don't have to go, right? So use the opportunity, especially in those first meetings, in that first pitch, in that first email, to get people curious just enough so they want to go to your movie. It's really that simple. And then once they go to your movie, then it's up to you whether they want to see the sequel or not. I'm not here to talk about the second meeting. It's more about that first meeting. Because I can guarantee you this. After 15 years of helping cats like you in these first meetings, if you do just some of the things we talked about yesterday and some of the things we're talking about today, not all, just some, I guarantee you'll have a better chance of getting a second meeting or a referral. And not so many maybes or no's where you feel dejected and you walk out thinking, God, what did we do wrong? So that much I can guarantee you. I do want to give you a tool. And Nellie, did you check your email? There is I sent you a document. If you could, I don't know why I couldn't do it, but if you can include that in the chat window for everybody, it doesn't have to be this second, but I want to offer all of you a way to keep track of your stories, because right now my guess is most of you are relying on the gray matter up here to remember the stories that have already happened up to now and the ones that are going to happen after today and the rest of your journey. You store them up here, don't you? Does anybody store them anywhere else? No, right? No, but you need to get them out of your head, because as you go through your journey, you're going to forget stuff that happened in the TINC program. You're going to forget stuff that happened last year. And some of those stories add up to an incredible book that you write one day, perhaps, or a TED Talk or a TEDx talk that you give in your local city, because they want to know how you succeeded, how you exited, how you did what you did, even if it's a failure. You know, we used to have a conference around the world called FailCon, where people got 15 minutes to go up on stage and tell people how they failed in business. And it was the most attended conference. It was expensive to go to, but it was amazing to listen to failure stories. And some of that stuff you're going to forget about, because a lot of the challenges, failures, or whatever you want to call them, they add up to your overnight success 7 years later, don't they? When all of a sudden, boom, everybody knows you. Now, how'd you succeed so quickly? It's like, well, it took us 7 years to get here. Well, tell us one of the most difficult times in that 7-year journey to get here. You're right in the moment. How are you going to remember one of the best stories? So here's what I can offer you. There was a book I read a while back. I should be more specific. 14 years ago, literally almost to the day, I read this book called What's Your Story by a professor in Chicago. And I forget what chapter it was, but he says, yeah, keep track of your stories. I said, oh, that's cool. A story matrix to keep track of your stories. I instantly opened up a Google document. I put a table on that document and I started listing the stories in basically, he said, 4 basic story types: success, failure, fun, and legend. If you want to change the labels, go ahead. It's not an IP trademarked thing. But the idea is now the row labels are up to you. And I put here 6 row labels that all apply to startuppers. You're going to have customer stories, partner stories, and all the others listed. And now all you have to do is say, boy, I had this really fun meeting with Shomit Ghosh. Great. Go to your fun column, go to the mentor row, and put down a trigger, something that reminds you. So when you look at it in a week or a month or a year or 2 years from now, you go, oh, yeah, Shomit Ghosh, Onset Ventures, right. When he was at the Berkeley Method of Entrepreneurship program, literally back in 2016, on that date, he told a story that I could instantly recall and tell you right now because of that trigger. And I hardly tell that story ever. But if I didn't have that reminder on my own personal story matrix, which is extremely dense, I probably wouldn't remember that. So I encourage all of you to not only do it for yourselves, but all of your management team keep their own story list of stories, because these don't all have to be I, me, and my stories. Christopher could be telling a story about Petter, a time when Petter was out doing this, and all of a sudden this happened, and boy, did it fail miserably. And then it got worse, and it got worse, and it got worse, until Petter finally said this, and that, blah, 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 blah. And that becomes a story that you can tell of somebody else. Okay? And it doesn't have to all be related to your management. It can be any stories that you use to help in your persuasion of investors or customers that you don't never, ever, ever want to forget. Okay? Nellie has already put the link into the chat window. You can download it. It's a template that I created with a couple samples in it. Feel free to use it, abuse it, change the labels in the row if you don't like them. You can change the column labels too, but why change something that works, at least to start with? Mr. Robinson, you're up. What can I answer for you?
No, I just had I'm a little bit more boring, you know. I'm very data driven. So I like the data to tell our story.
Okay.
So how can I like incorporate that in this sort of setting, you know? Obviously, like our data is the proof that most investors in the end also want to look at, and everyone who finds it interesting at first, they want to look deeper. And when you tell the story, that type of story, so how would you go about that and incorporate that into all this?
Well, it sounds like it's either a fun or or a legendary story that you use all of the time to get people understanding the value of what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter when you tell the story or when you share the story. It's a matter of having the story. So what it sounds like you just described to me is something that you would use frequently. Is that right?
Yes, of course,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Every
then
day.
in that case, I would list that in the column that Craig Wortman calls legend stories. Legend stories are the ones that are told so often and everybody hears them, whether it's a little variation on the theme or not. And then they become almost legendary, and other people start repeating them, and it becomes not mythical, but it becomes legendary in that, wow, oh, you're the guys where, okay, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer your question? I'm not sure I answered your question.
I mean, yes, just partly at least, because I'm thinking more like in the setting that we are in right now, and
Oh,
the different type of people that we will be meeting with, and obviously for our sake, like all in everything that we're doing, it's a lot getting the foot through the door, and no one really wants to go a deep dive into the data that proves that we're actually doing it right. So all this storytelling and that you're explaining here is obviously immensely important, even for us to adapt to and just improve overall, But then once you get that foot through the door, telling an even more compelling story backed by the data that we have, I just any pointers on how to transition that or how to go that deeper step.
well, the first and most obvious one to me is when they say, so what are you working on there? You can go right to a story immediately, depending on the situation. A story has much more impact on our ears than just saying, we do this, here's an example, here's a demo.
Mhm.
When you can reference sell or use a story of how it works and the depths and the values all come through when you're sharing that story, you could use that as the opening. You can literally say, what we do here at blah blah, and here's an example. And then you give us that story.
Right.
And, or you say, you know, I could spend all day telling you about what we do, but the best way to do it is to share this story. Or you want to tell them the log line. The best way to answer that question is to share how we blah, 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 which is what you're about to tell us about, the story, the log line. And then you tell it, you share it, because it sounds like it's engaging. It conveys the value of what you're doing. And when you could do that through a story versus slides even, or just an interaction with somebody like we're having right now, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I don't think I've completely answered the question. But let's cover maybe some of that in more detail in the one-on-ones that we have, because then we
Perfect,
can
thank
get
you.
real specific. Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Any questions on the story matrix? Okay. Great. Very powerful. Okay, let's move into now a couple of pitch frameworks that you can think about using so that at least you have some guidelines. All right. Now, every incubator, every accelerator, every mentor, every investor firm will tell you what the best pitch deck is out there. But I'm here to tell you that there is no such thing as the perfect pitch deck. Or, sorry, no such thing as a perfect pitch, and no such thing as a perfect pitch deck. All right. The way I would categorize your deck is if it helps you tell your story and it amplifies the points you're trying to make, then it's the perfect deck. If it's distracting, if it looks like Airbnb's deck because you just copied theirs and you're just filling in the blanks, it's probably not the right deck to use. So I'm going to encourage you to use a deck, at least on May 22, that is your story in a way that covers the main points that you want to share with those 3 people sitting on the panel so they can ask you questions. Okay, that's it. So it's up to you how you put this together. We do offer you the ability to use slides. You can use sound. You can use video. It's multimedia, whatever you want to do. You can bring something and show and tell. If you have something to show, right there, they're going to be so close to you. You want to captivate somebody's attention in less than 30 seconds? Take your product out of your pocket. Take something out of your pocket to say, and this is part of our technology. We just had this last week with the Reach group. And one of the Reach people had this really tiny little lensless microscope. And she showed that right away. This is what we're making. This is a prototype. This is a 3D print. That's engaging. I saw somebody came in for a question. Did you not need it?
Yeah, it was me. I just wanted to ask if that's like a common thing that people actually demo their product as a part of the pitch.
Oh,
if that's something we should do, or it's just, yeah, here it is kind of thing.
yeah, it's a 3-minute pitch. So if you want to show a couple of things about your solution, okay, but it's not the place to demo and say, here, we log in here, and then we do this, we do this, we do this. It's show the results, if anything. Show the results or show that it's real, but this is not a time to demo because usually anything more than about 30 seconds on your product is too much anyway. So I would vote normally not a live demo unless that is the way you communicate your value. For example, I'm working with a sports company right now. They have a game that literally you scan the QR code on the screen and you are in the game. You're playing the game. And the best way they can get the audience to understand the value, which is how quickly the fans can get access to this game and start playing, is, okay, everybody scan the QR code up on the screen. Poop, bump, and then he doesn't say anything for the next 30 seconds. And all of a sudden you see people going like this with their phones because they're playing the game. That's okay. But you want to be careful about how long you let something like that go on for. You might have to Okay, can we put that down now? Because you lose people's attention if you let them do something in the demo. But if you can do something quick, okay. Self-running demos, a video, short video of the demo running, or a video of the hardware thing you're showing running with no voiceover. In a 3-minute pitch, I never want the voice on the video. I want you, unless it's your customer's voice, I want your voice to voice over what we're seeing. But quick, short on the demo itself. Åsa, I saw you came off of mute. Did you want to add something to, because Åsa's seen as many as I have with this TINC program. Okay.
No, just you said we offer you the opportunity, but
Yeah.
Visuals needs to be. It's. I've never seen anyone do a 3-minute pitch without any visuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you're all about data and that's it, and you're not showing any graphics or anything like that, but you do something with the data, that might be hard to show something. But in general, usually you can show something. All right, let's move on. I
think Scott has his hand up.
Okay.
I can also take it at the end, Nathan, if you want to continue. It's just I'll take it now. Just no, I just wanted to highlight what you said about storytelling. Just a very quick story for me. So again, I was in San Francisco almost a month and a half ago, and we were at like 50% of our $1 million round, and it was really starting to get hard at the stage we were to get the rest of the 50%. And what happened for me specifically, again, it's not a magic wand for everyone, but when I switched to storytelling, we got the rest of the 50% very easy. Not to say that it's how, again, we're going to have to, we do it next time, but something about that with the stage we were at our company, the stories were way more interesting. And I was just way more natural in the States as well. So I have a lot of cool stories to share with you guys if you're interested about that, but now is not the time, I think. But I totally agree that it's totally part of this whole picture for sure.
Thank you for that, Scott. And it's underestimated. Storytelling is underestimated, especially when you are trying to carve out a little piece of that longer term memory in the mind of the person you're meeting for the first time. You don't have any idea when those 3 cats show up on the 22nd and they walk in the door, what about 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever it is, you don't have any idea how many people they just saw that day. They could have just come from 2 different events that day, one that had 12, another that had 12, and now you're the 25th. And the 28th company they're seeing that day is like, oh my God, people do this. Then they go to AngelList or Gust and they watch a bunch of videos of other startups because they're still looking. And then they meet with a friend, and these stories are what separate you from your competition and from the other companies that investors are looking at to invest in. And I'm here to tell you and remind you, the one with the best story usually wins. Check out Oracle. They're still around, aren't they? But when relational databases were the thing, they were not the best software. They were not the best technology. They weren't. I had friends in relational database that just couldn't believe the claims they were making and how they won deals left and right from companies that had way better technology. They sold using stories and lies. Oh, excuse me. Did I just say that? No, I didn't just say that. All right, let's get back to my slides. My wife worked at Oracle when there were only 1,500 people there, so I do have a little sense of what it was like when they were a young company, younger. So as we mentioned, I believe we mentioned yesterday, I think I'm having a senior moment about this. We did talk about the main goal of these first meetings, right? Which is more time and everything. Yes, we did. So that's the key. And I do believe in what Scott said, the more stories you share that let people connect, not just up here, but in the heart, the more time they will want to spend with you. The more stories they're going to want to hear. It's just the way of the word. Even if they're not the exact investor for you, they still have friends. They still want to know what you're up to. So if somebody says no, that doesn't mean they don't want to stay in touch with you. If they like you, you like them, that ending of that meeting could be, no, sorry, Mustafa, I'm sorry, the fund's done. But I'll tell you what, I'd like to stay in touch with you over the next 6 to 12 months because we're going to fill the fund up again. And if you happen to be looking for money in 6 to 12 months, well, let's revisit it. Okay, great. Now you can have a good reason to stay in touch with that person, right? Okay, so I'd like to give you a 5-question framework you can start with. Again, if you Google investor pitch formats, frameworks, you're going to get exhausted with how many are out there. But here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to boil it down to 5 questions. If you answer these 5 questions, you will have done your job, and now you should be able to get questions. These are not the only 5 questions to answer. If you answer these 5 questions, or just pick 4 of them and answer them, and then you time it and you see, oh, 2 minutes. Well, I still have a minute to go. All right, so you add more. So this is not an all-inclusive framework. This is kind of just the basics. And then depending on how much time you have left, you can add as much more to any of these questions or add anything else. I'm going to give them all to you at the same time. Okay? And you can have a copy of these slides, by the way, so you don't have to worry about taking a picture of it. It all starts with, what are you working on and why? You can kind of combine these things together. You'll notice that there is no problem statement here, and that's for 2 main reasons. One, it's included in the why. And the other reason is most investors are tired of listening to your problem statements. Why? Because they already know the problem you're solving, or they have an understanding of it, or a basic understanding of it. They're not dumb. They've been around, unless you're doing something that is so unique and that's never been done before. Okay, then you might have to talk about the problem you're solving. But in general, if you're clear on what you're doing, especially if you use some of the work we've done together with your analogy or simile or anything like that, the why is almost obvious. It's almost obvious. After that, the next question, they want to know, why you? Why you and your team? It can be both. It is not a brag. It's more of a establish your credibility. Like, why you? If you don't establish why you, Orsa's not going to do it for you. I'm not going to do it for you. The way you get introduced, that's a good one. Introduced is, okay, next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have Intutu. And then there'll be a slide up there with your name, Scott, and your title and your logo. And when you pick up the clicker, and it's now all on you. The 3 people that show up to this particular event may not have enough time to read the little bit that is on the paper that Orsa and Nelly will hand to them, so they are informed. They might not have time to look at that yet, so they might not really know much about you. And I do believe also you send a little bit of a background of the companies out to the people coming, but they might not have time to look at it. So you have to assume lowest common denominator. They've been too busy to read any of it. So you have to establish your own credibility. It's usually 1 sentence, 2 max. And I'll help you with all of this. That's why I'm giving it to you now, so that we can work on it. Chip away. Just maybe work on numbers 1 and 2. Once you got that dialed in, let's work on 3 and 4, and then you can start practicing 1 and 2, put your slides together, and by the time you show up here, if you break this down into pieces, it'll be a cakewalk, as we like to say. You just get up there and go through the 5 questions, and maybe that one more slide, you decide to include a competition slide for whatever reason. I can't imagine why, but you could. Tom's smiling. Why would you ever want to cover the competition in a 3-minute pitch? It's a waste of time. Let them ask you questions. If they want to know about your competition, they'll ask you. And normally in this setting, they'll never say, well, you didn't cover your competition. I'm very disappointed. No, they'll just say, hey, I'd like to hear about your competition. You said, great. What would you like to know? Or you answer the question. Leave out all that stuff that you typically think you have to cover, because these are literally all they need. What are you working on clearly, and why are you doing it? Okay, great. We understand the why is who gets the value, who, what, or when, people, places, or thing gets your value. Why you and your team? Oh, okay. I could trust them. The third question might seem a little bit weird. I did that on purpose because I want you to be able to describe or prove what the world looks like now with you in it, with your product or your service in the hands of people or places or things using your product. What does the world look like today? Meaning you have some traction. Tell me what's going on. What does the world look like today? Because if you can describe that, it'll be easy to understand what it used to look like. If you don't have results yet that you can say, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this, then you have to change the flavor of question 3 into what do you expect the world to look like when your MVP is out, or when this is out, or when we finally get the results. Remember, every one of you are at a different point. Some of you have traction, some of you don't. Some of you have MVPs, some of you don't. Some of you have more baked and some of you don't. So just there's no reason to make excuses. You just tell me, what does the world look like today based on the success and the results that you've achieved? And it's not only money, of course, it's the results of your product or your service. And then if you don't have them, then what do you expect the world to look like? Investors always need to know number 4, basic, just the basics. How do you expect to make money? We're going to have a subscription-based price, a subscription-based SaaS product, and we're planning to do yearly contracts only. We're not going to get into the month-to-month stuff. Okay, great. Now they know how you're going to make money. You haven't given the numbers. It doesn't matter. But if you don't let them know how do you make money, they might start with that question. So I'm a little confused here. How do you make money? If they have to ask you that question, I feel like that's a fail. If an investor has to ask you, how do you make money in this business? I think that's a miss. It's not even it's just a miss. So I don't want them to ask you that question. If you want them to ask you that question, that's on you. But I would not want that question if I was pitching to an investor. I would want them to clearly know how I make money. And you know the reason why. Number 5, at the end of your pitch, this is your opportunity to ask 3 very friendly people what they can do to help you grow or scale your business. You're all likable people, and your pitch is going to be likable, if not lovable. And at the end, just say, and what we're here in Silicon Valley, what we need to grow our business is, right? In Scott's corner, he has a little bit of an easier ask if he's still raising money and he wants to say, and frankly, I know that not many of my cohorts are doing this here, but we are indeed raising money here in the US. And if you would like to have a follow-up conversation, I think that's probably okay, Scott, if you're still raising money on that night. Or allude to it. You don't have to say, my cohort isn't. I didn't mean to make it you're better than them, because you're not. You're just in a different situation. You can raise money in the US, and some of the other teams can't yet because they don't have the US presence and they don't have the paperwork and stuff like that. Also, am I going off on a tangent that you would rather I didn't hear?
No.
Okay. Okay, just check. Too late now. I've already done it.
Too late now. You rented now. No, just kidding.
But you will find that if an investor in the US is interested in you, one of the questions they're going to ask you is, what is your US presence? Where, have you incorporated in the United States yet? And if you say no, they'll say, okay, great. I appreciate that. And just know that one of our rules here is you have to have an incorporation here. Or you have to be incorporated here in the United States, or paperwork here for us to formally invest in you. I believe that's opening up a bit now more, especially with the Crown Prince coming here from Norway to help bridge the gap of investors here and there. Not sure what about Sweden. We're waiting for Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland to bring their top cats over here as well. Sorry.
They have plenty of time.
We're coming.
And we're coming.
The Swedish Crown Princess was here a couple of weeks before the Norwegian Crown Prince.
Oh, right.
I think it's her 3rd visit. Yeah, she's a little bit. They don't take as much
okay.
time at a time.
Just don't bring them all here at the same time. I can't imagine the traffic in the streets
they're
would
good
be just
friends,
locked
so
in.
maybe we should.
So what do you need to grow or scale your business? And you ask nicely for it, and be careful of your ask. You want to be as specific as you can, especially in this situation, because they might literally be able to introduce you to the company or the type of company that you're looking to meet. Maybe, Scott, I keep going back to you because you're just sitting in front of my camera. But maybe when you're asked, you could say, and we're looking to meet the California government officials who are in charge of X and Y. And who knows, maybe that's a cousin of somebody you're talking to. Next thing you know, you're having a meeting before you go home. Try to ask for something that's not difficult to provide you with and make it as easy as possible for them to do it for you. Don't say things like, we'd like to be introduced to companies that, just try to make it specific. I'm not actually coming up with a good example. Yeah, we're looking for partners. There's a good example. We're looking for partners. Really? What kind of partners? I mean, partners is very nebulous in people's minds. We're looking specifically for partners in the fashion or the retail, blah, 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 blah. And then they go, okay, in my network, yeah, okay, I got that. I think I can introduce you to somebody. More specific you are, the easier it is for them to figure out who they can introduce you to if you're looking for an intro or which companies. So I want to stop for a moment and take any questions on this. I have two more. I have one more to give you, but this is kind of one of my more favorite ones because it's just simple. Don't aim for 3 minutes, by the way, okay? When you're practicing, when you finally get all your talking points together, try not to come in at 2:59 or 3:05 every time. You know, kind of aim for 2:55. Leave a few seconds on the clock so that you can breathe and pause. Which some people, there's not a race. It's not a race. It's just not hard to answer these 5 questions in 3 minutes. In fact, you can do more than these five questions in 3 minutes. But you can easily cover all of these in less than 3 minutes. Okay? All right, let me finish this up and then we'll take a break. One of the requests that we made of you in yesterday's invitation to the workshop was to please watch Simon Sinek's How Great Leaders Inspire Action. Now, I know that probably many of you haven't watched it and you might have missed that link, but it's okay, because my guess is most of you have already seen it. But I would like you to watch it again, because what you'll find is that his golden circle of the why, how, what can actually be used to take people through a pitch. Not by itself, but when I first saw this in 2009, it was a year into my coaching and I was using David Rose's 12-slide deck. And I would say, pick out the stuff you can use and throw away the rest for your 3-minute pitch. And it was hard for people to take stuff out. But when I saw this, I thought, oh, this is cool. How about this? So I took the golden circle and I gave Simon Sinek, and I still to this day give him full credit for his why, how, what. And you can use it to create a 2 to 5 minute pitch to compel your audience to get emotionally connected to whatever you're talking about using his method. That's the whole process. You want to get people more engaged? Why, how, what? Start with why, blah, blah, blah. So the golden circle, just to remind you, if you haven't seen it in a while, looks like this. Start with why, then go to how, then go to what. In the startup world, your why is your problem. The how is your solution. The what are the results, the outcomes, the benefits, how people are benefiting from your solution. Now, this is not, we're not done. If you just do this, you'll sound like everybody else. Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We solved this climate change problem, blah, blah, climate tech, climate, blah, 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 blah. 2 minutes later, they go, oh, and here's our solution. And then they go into the rest. If you start with the problem, usually the problem is not engaging. You try to make it engaging. You blow it up to be 10 times bigger than what you're actually doing just to make it interesting, and there's a better way. Just use a hook or a grabber. Use your simile, your analogy, your log line, we do this, so this happens. Why? Because of this. How do we solve that? Using this. And so far, this is what we've accomplished. For May 22nd, you don't need much more than your ask and your close. That's it. So this is another way to leverage the why, how, what if you're a Simon Sinek fan, and just wrap it up with a nice hook or a grabber in the beginning and an ask and a close at the end. And an ask is potentially different than a close. Your ask is, and we're here because we'd love to meet so and so and so and so and so and so. In closing, and then you finish. The close is not the ask to me. Close is, what do you want people to remember as the last thing you say? What could you put there? You could put your simile, analogy, or metaphor in closing. When you think about in tutu, perhaps this image might come to your mind. And now you tell us something and we go, oh, that's beautiful. I can't wait. Sun shining, whatever, right? Each of you can use your one of those. So that's another way to do it. Any questions? The reason I'm giving you all these choices is so that you can think about them now, and then when we have our first one-on-one call, we can figure out which of these might be the best starting for you. And then you carve out the rest of whatever you need to make it as good as you want to make it. Scott, I saw you came up with...
it was just real quick, Nathan, but this is the format I used for, it was maybe too quick, but for the 60-second pitch I worked with you on for Bifrost, this was the format I got to.
Fantastic. And it felt good and it worked for you.
Yeah.
So there you go, folks. I paid him $50 to say that, but this stuff works. I didn't make up Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. All I did was make it a little better by putting the cover, the packaging around it. And you'll definitely sound different if you do it in this way. Thanks, Scott. Just let me know your ACH codes. Okay. All right. Now, finally, to wrap up the storytelling, I believe if you were with us on Wednesday night in Oslo, you heard me say this, but I want to repeat it because it's very, very powerful. When it comes to storytelling, pitching, selling, persuading, most people will start with the problem, then they'll go to the solution, and then they'll tell people what they get when they use the product, the outcomes, the benefits, the results. And that is typical in the startup world. My personal opinion is it comes from the fact that when you're in the early stages of developing your product, you tell people what the problem is, and then you show them what the product is, because you're in this problem solution fit mode. And then when you get to the next stage, which is now I'm going to get it out there and try to reach product market fit, you take the problem and the solution, boom, you take that deck and then you add to it. You add the results and everything else at the end of it, your competition, your 5-year projection, and all that other stuff. Well, in sharing information with people, that's fine. Do it any which way you want. Go problem solution and do it all that anytime. But when you're trying to persuade people, I'm encouraging all of you to switch it up, and switch it up to problem, results, solution. If you talk about, we solved this problem, here's what we've done so far. We've got this as a result. We've got this as a result. We've got this as impact. We've cut costs. We've improved this. People go, holy moly, that is amazing. Now, can I see how you do that? Versus, here's the problem we solve. Here's how we solve it. This solution, press this button, you get this report, then you do this, then we AI, then we this, and people are so sucked into the features and the functions of what you're doing, and you love your features and functions because it's your baby. We forget about that people don't buy features and functions. They buy results, they buy impact, they buy benefits, they buy value. So if all you did is try on a new shirt for a week, just a week, whenever you're presenting, mostly to, actually it can be both, investors and customers. They'll want to see your solution, but if you tell them the results of what they get from your solution or what your other customers are getting from your solution, they'll be salivating like, okay, enough, show me. And that's a much better persuasive state of mind to get your audience in than, oh my God, when are they going to get through this product so I can understand more about, how much it costs and what I get from it. Because many of you leave off what the value is. You just say, when you press this, you get this great report. Uh-huh. Nice. What does the report mean? You know what it means, and you expect us to know what it means, but unless you tell us what it means, we don't know. So you sometimes forget about that. And by going problem, results, solution, just flipping the second and third thing, I would love to hear how you make out with that. I won't make many claims except the fact that for about 2 years now that I've been recommending this switch, people that switch are getting better results when they come back and tell me. There's nobody who has come back to me and said, Nathan, it failed. It just didn't work. It was awkward. It didn't feel right. And I would probably guess that just listening to me talk about problem, solution, results, just switching it to problem, result, solution, hopefully inside you said, oh, yeah, that kind of, oh, yeah. If you got that feeling, then try it. See how it works out for you. Okay? It's time for a break. Let's see. I have 2 more topics to cover here today, so we are good for a 10-minute break. Okay? 10 minutes. See you back. Whoops. There we go. Coming up on 1 minute, folks. 1 minute. Oh, that's terrible. Hello, we're back. All right. Thank you for hanging in with us. Recording is still recording. Okay, good. We're there. And I have 2 more topics for you today.
Is
Relax.
it recording? I forgot to restart it.
It is. No, it's recording.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. It says recording. We didn't pause it, but it's good. It's okay now. Right. So we're at the tail end. We have about 45 minutes left, and I have 2 topics to get you through. There's not a lot of notes you'll need to take on this, so feel free to just sit back, pick up your drink or food and just relax. Okay. So the first topic I want to go through is not related to when you'll be here necessarily, because you'll be in person. But there is this whole virtual world that we spend a big amount of time in. And I want to just make a few things clear to you that people are still not showing up as their best selves. And I just want to cover the basics here. Some of the things that maybe you can change, maybe you can at least modify for your more important meetings. Today, I wouldn't consider today a really important meeting. So the fact that some of you are already breaking some of the general rules of thumb for being in the virtual world, it doesn't matter today. But when you're showing up on camera to an investor there or anywhere, or anybody, even customers, it's something people still overlook. You know, in the old days, media training sort of looked like this. You'd have to go to a PR firm for a week and sit there and get filmed and playback and watch it, and filmed and playback and watch it, and be pounded with questions because you were in the public face. You would be interviewed, you'd be going on IPOs or whatever else the company was doing. And so this was a week's worth of effort in my early 20s. It was one of the most stressful weeks of my life, because not only was I way out of my comfort zone of sitting in front of a camera and standing in front of a camera, I was being trained by experts, and they made me feel like about this big until sort of like Thursday or Friday when I started catching on to the skills that we were trying to teach me. This was serious stuff. What's media training today? Get in front of your camera, turn on your computer. Oh yeah, that camera before the pandemic, oh, it never worked, did it? But now with the pandemic, it works. That's our media training, and it's not enough. So if you're still showing up on camera and you're not doing a couple of things I'm about to tell you, that means you don't care about how you look. Because a good friend of mine says your on-screen presence is the new business attire. And you don't have to do necessarily really fancy things like I'm doing here, where I go from this scene and now I bring up my slides here where I'm not sharing. I'd be happy to show any of you one-on-one how I do these things, because there's many ways to do it. But at least showing up with some of the basics that make you look better, just like you would do when you get dressed and show up in a room. So let's get you a little more camera ready. There are multiple levels. Good. I want to get you all to at least good. If you're already at the good, I can get you to the better. If you're already at the better, I can help you get to the best. What do you want to do? Let's get you all to good today. And then in our one-on-ones, wherever you find that you are, I'm happy to help you amplify it. And no matter where you are, and you might say, okay, I'm already at the good. I've got it all dialed in. That's great. But there are more levels. Maybe you were even at the better level. There's more levels. I think I'm at the best level, but there's ways to improve best. I'm not using all the technology that I could be using here if I needed it. So I'm somewhere between better and best. There's a whole lot of people out there way better than me. But I can tell you, with just 2 buttons on my keyboard, I'm able to keep the attention of my audiences a whole lot more by just going from one scene to the next scene and back without having to share and stop share. Just that little thing can give somebody like you a distinct competitive advantage when you show up on camera. So I'm going to break it down into 4 basic quick areas. Don't need to take questions until we're get through the whole thing. It's not hard. Let's start with the first one, which is your sound quality. Everything online is about your sound quality. If your camera is no good, fine, don't care. So you turn it off or you don't show up on camera. But your sound quality, you must pay attention to that. That is number 1. How you sound over the microphone can mean the difference between people thinking you're credible, believable, trustworthy, and more likable, comparing to somebody who shows up with a microphone and they're all muffled up and they sound like they're in a tunnel. And all of a sudden your likability, your credibility, your everything goes right into the toilet. Literally, down. And you could be saying the same things. Now, the good news is in this virtual world, it's no different than if you walk into a big room and you go over there to the AV people and they say, okay, let's see, let's get you mic'd up. And they stick a mic on you, whether it's a lapel mic or a cheek mic or a handheld mic, and they throw you up on stage and they say, go ahead and do a mic check, and that's it. And now you go up there and you do your thing. You need to be doing this in front of your screens. If you don't sound great, it's easy to fix. You can buy yourself a little lapel microphone. 20, 30, 40 US dollars. 40 is expensive. And plug it right into the USB, a USB 2. You don't even need a USB 3. Now you pin that onto your chest. Now you sound radio quality or close to radio quality every time you show up, whether it's Teams, Zoom, or whatever. Yes, and please ask away.
Sorry, maybe I didn't catch that one. How are you doing it right now?
How am I doing my presentation to you right now?
No, the sound quality situation.
The what?
What are you using some kind of microphone for your presentation right now?
Myself.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Yep. This is my desk. This is my microphone right here.
Okay.
And my microphone is about 12 centimeters away from my face. But it's not in the image because when I'm talking to you like this, I don't like it in the image. Some people like to stick it right here. That's okay. If you like to have your microphone in your face, okay. But I put it right underneath my face so that it picks up what I'm saying when I'm going straight into it like this, but then I can keep my face forward towards you. Then I got all my keyboards and everything else that's going on here. Is that what you were asking me then?
Very impressive. I expected less fancy though.
Ah, well, less fancy? Well, what can I tell you? All right. So if you want to amplify anything in this virtual world, just work on your sound quality. And the easiest way to tell whether you sound good or not, and it is all dependent in your surroundings. I have some sound deadening boards on the wall behind me so they don't get that reflection. Do you need all of this stuff for you? Probably not. But if you're recording yourself and you're doing outbound social media, video type posts, you want to sound the best you can. That's number 1. And then look, of course. So if you don't want to up your game with a pluggable lapel mic, you all probably have spent good money on a Bluetooth headset. I'm pretty convinced of that. Use that as your microphone. You just go into Zoom or Teams and you say, I'm using this as my microphone and my speakers are the ones on my desk. So you can separate the audio in and out and just use your Bluetooth microphone that is generally noise canceling and good quality as the input. Or like Scott's wearing a headset. Scott, do you have a boom on that or is it only head?
Just these old Bose ones, just inside there.
Okay. So you check whatever you're using as your microphone, however you like to interact. There is no Only way. There's no best way. It's what you feel comfortable doing. I'm on so many meetings all day that if I put over the ear headphones on my head, I'd have a headache about midway in the day. And I've done it and I don't like that. So I do everything to keep my ears open. You know, it could go in the ear. There's so many choices, but microphones are key. Now, the good news is if you have a Mac, a Mac laptop, your microphone is probably outstanding, and so is your camera. I haven't seen a Mac that doesn't have a good microphone and camera. If you're not coming in hot, strong enough on your Mac laptops, you just need to get a little closer to it. But generally speaking, that little pinhole microphone in Macs, gorgeous. If you're on a PC, sorry, I've never met a Windows machine that comes factory based with a really high quality microphone. There's some high quality webcams, but even they are not that high quality. So you're gonna have to put some money on the table or use your Bluetooth connector and connect that way. Now, if you really want to up your game and go radio quality, which all of you can do, even if you don't have what sounds very close to a radio voice like Scott has, you put his voice behind a microphone and now you can't stop listening. I'm not just telling Scott that because he's my brother from another mother. It's just that he's got great sound quality in the headset he's using. I'll find others of you who have that as well. But these microphones that you're looking at here all cost probably north of 50 US and south of 150 US. And they all plug right into your USB port 2.0. They all have a knob on them for gain. So if somebody says, hey, I can't hear you very much, you just say, well, how do I sound now? And you just turn the gain up or you turn the gain down if you're too hot. It's really that simple and easy. Then you don't need any extra software. You don't need to load other stuff. It's all right on the microphone. And the other button is usually a mute button that you can see that you're muted on that particular microphone. Enough on mics. They come in all shapes and sizes. Find something that works in your surrounding. There's all sorts of choices. The silver one you see here is the one that I have used for most of my career until I found the Shure brand. And the Shure, I just like it better, just for me. But this Blue Yeti here is probably about 199, 100, 120, and they make a smaller version of it. So if you're going to take it with you, you want to minimize the size of it, of course. If you're going to use it in one spot all the time, you're much freer to choose different things. Okay, enough on microphones. But sound quality, number one, not only for your interactions like we're having, but when you record yourself or when you are recorded, when people play back that recording and listen to the sound of the gorgeous radio quality sound of your voice, they will pay more attention and trust you and consider you more credible. There's studies on this, believe it or not. I don't want to waste time on this now. All right, cameras. Well, this is a good news, bad news situation because some of you have built-in cameras, others of you have external cameras. So it is what it is. If you have an internal camera in your laptop and you're still doing this to your audience, could you please stop? Okay, I get it. For today is all right. But if you're having an investor meeting and you're looking for a document and you're doing this to them, it's not really a pretty sight. So what they say in broadcast and TV and streaming is divide the LCD into 3 and put your eyes roughly along the continuum of the top third, roughly. And that will make it seem like you're sitting more across the table from us in this virtual world. So that's what I do here. When I'm in my main screen, my eyes are roughly at the top third, a little bit of space above my head, and that lets my arms come into it. And I also have a sit-standing desk, so if I wanted to do that, I would press a button, everything would go up, I could step back a little bit and get more of my body into the picture. So just get your eyes roughly up there if you can. So how do you do that if you've got a built-in camera? Well, you might have to stack it up on some books. I mean, get creative. This is what I did with my original laptop 10 years ago when Skype came out and I was using Skype, or maybe longer than 10 years ago. And yes, I know. How do you work with your keyboard? You don't. You get an external keyboard, obviously. and a mouse so you can leave your camera roughly so you can look straight ahead. That's the whole point. If you can look straight ahead, or your camera is right roughly where the Zoom window or Teams window is of the people you'll be talking to, that's what you want to do. Now, if you have an external camera, it gets a whole lot easier. You can put it wherever you want. Just try to put it in a place that makes it easy for you to make eye contact with the person or people you're talking to, which we'll get to in just a moment. Before you go and buy a new webcam because you're a PC laptop user and the one you're using sucks, I wouldn't say that you should buy a new webcam anytime soon, because every one of you have a smartphone that has gorgeous, gorgeous cameras built in, cameras, and you can turn any smartphone into a webcam with literally the snap of your fingers for free. So if you have an older smartphone, go grab it, take it out of the drawer. If the battery still works, you don't need a battery, just plug it in and leave it on all the time when you're online. And all you need is a selfie stick. That's really the only expense. And the way to do that is the easiest, my favorite, not the only, free way to turn your smartphone into a webcam is through this product called Camo 2. Camo with the number 2, by a company called Reincubate. It's the fastest, easiest, and free way to turn your smartphone, Android or iOS, that's the beauty, I like to talk about things that work in both worlds, into an instant webcam, which means you get depth of field and you get better results. The webcam's depth of field I think they're just catching on to depth of field, actually. Number 3, lighting. I'm not going to spend much time on this because lighting is a bit of art and a bit of science, and then it has a lot to do with the natural lighting versus the not natural lighting, daytime, nighttime, and this could be a whole half-hour discussion. But I just want you to know, if you look like this, it's not good. Okay, look at yourself. I mean, if you turn off you hide your self view, turn it on for a moment so that you don't look like Tom. I mean, this person here. And Tom, you're stuck. You must not have much lighting in front of you. And that's okay for today, but you're a good example of how not to be here. And thanks for letting me pick on you. I owe you 20. But this is not what's so ironic. Your picture's right next to my slide right now. It's like, oh my God.
It's all right.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can take it, right? And Christopher, no, I'm kidding. You don't even have your camera on. The rest of you, you're lit up decently. Oscar with the C, you have light coming in from your left. I can't see the right. Maybe you want that look. Nelly, you have a virtual background. You have enough light on you, and with your blonde hair, we can see you. You show up just fine, and we don't have to go through everybody. But just try to get the light in front of you if you can. Sometimes you can't. If you can't, you might need a little bit of an extra light available to you. And I carry one of these babies with me whenever I go on the road. It's just a little LED light that gives me the ability to spin the dial to go warmer or brighter, as well as the different, like 2200 all the way up to 5600 in terms of temperature. And it just plugs onto my laptop, so at least that way I can light up my face. Because I often can use people's offices, but it's sometimes a closet, with the light up above you, and that's all you get. So carrying one of these is helpful. And you already carry one, though. If you're not using your smartphone as your webcam and you don't need it during the meeting, you can flip it around and turn on the light of your camera, the flashlight, the torch, and then you have a light on your face. So if you're ever in an emergency situation and you just need to light yourself up, you can go that way. Okay. If you want more help on how to get some lighting set up for you without spending much money, I can tell you how to do that. Because most people don't see your lighting. They only see the results of your lighting. So how the lights look is not very pretty, but it doesn't matter if they're doing their job. So I can get you pretty well set up in your own little office studio, $30, $40 US. You can have all the lighting you need without spending much money. Number 4, the final part of this is audience interaction. And it's on you. I mean, this is something I hear a lot of complaints about. People say, oh, I don't know if my audience is paying attention. I don't know if are they even there? I mean, Christopher and N and Mustafa, they have their cameras off. Are they even there? You know what? I don't care. It's not about me. I am doing everything I can with my camera because it's all fake. I mean, none of you are here with me. I can't come over and shake your hands and touch your shoulder or ask you to come up. So I've got to look into my camera. That's what this guy is doing. He's looking into his camera. He is not looking at me on the screen. This is a very important point. In the virtual world, I know it's hard that you want to look at the person you're talking to on the screen so you can see that they're nodding their head or they're looking left, looking right, paying attention, not paying attention. But if you do that, I am not making eye contact with you, am I? I'm making eye contact with you get that. But that's what we all usually do, or 98% of the people do that. Unless you move your image of who you're talking to close to the camera, which is the best alternative for now. Move that window near your camera, or move your camera near that window. That's the beauty of having a smartphone as a webcam, because you can literally put it on a selfie stick in front of a 59-inch screen, put it right in the middle, and now when you look at the screen, it gives the impression you're looking straight ahead into your camera. So if you want to be a better presenter in the virtual world, you need to make better eye contact. That's it. I mean, that doesn't cost anything. You just need to train yourself that when you're speaking, you need to look into the camera and you need to talk to that camera as if that camera is a live, breathing person. Because if you look at it as a camera and talk to it like a camera, you're going to drop all your energy. It sucks all the energy out of us, actually. Most cameras just suck the energy out of the presenter because it's like, oh my God, I have to talk to the lens. Yeah, I want to talk to Mustafa and Christopher, who's over here. Except what I'm doing here. You all are actually sitting in front of my camera. So if you want to know how to do that at a later time, I would be happy to show you. But there are ways that you can do what I have done with you yesterday and today. And just by a thumbs up, does it look like I'm doing natural eye contact and making eye contact with you right now? It better be, because I'm looking straight into my lens. But you know what? I'm not really looking at my lens because my lens, my camera is behind a mirror. And that mirror is reflecting all of you in my Zoom window right now. So I can see the minute Scott goes like this. And now he blinked and he did this. I can see that Ada is smiling and almost, I can see Oscar just turned on his light. So all of that's right in my face, which makes it totally easy for me to make eye contact, much like they do on TV when there's a teleprompter and they're telling you the news, the weather, or whatever. They're looking straight at a camera, but with a reflection of the words. Instead of the words here, I'm using you. So you must look here. And if you have to, put a little sticky on your camera right now that says, look here. And over a week or 2 or 3, you will train yourself to look into the camera when you're speaking. If you're not speaking, look anywhere you want. Or pick up a clue over here. Hang on a sec. Pick up a clue over here and then just come back to the camera. Because that's the eyes of your people. That's the fastest way to have more engagement with your audiences. How do they do that? What? Nobody does that. And that's, you got them. Now, to finish this up, you see me do some fun things here with my camera, and I can show you how to do these things with your camera at many different levels. In this case, I just want you to realize that when you show up on camera, you can look like Hazel or Fred, whatever your particular gender choice is. But see what she's done here? The lower, it's almost like the lower fifth of the screen has this white opaque, and then on top of that she's got black bold letters for her name and title, and then she sticks her company logo right there, and then a blurry background. You all can do that right now too, but all you do typically is a blurry background. Or you put a blurry background, not a blurry background, but a background and your logo on the background. Well, when you start working with me, I will show you how you can put your logo in front of you. Easy peasy, easy peasy. And what it does for you is it lets you brand yourself in a way that whenever you show up, everybody that sees me online will always see that logo in the bottom right corner. All my videos, bottom right corner. And it's easy to do without having to invest any money or much time. And in fact, if you look at your screen as a 1920 by 1080p, you can dream tonight about what can I do to my screen to make me stand out? Well, you can use Camo 2. You can use Camo 2. See what Aiden did with his name and logo in the bottom right corner of the picture there? You can do that with your name and your logo before tomorrow's first meeting. Check this out. Well, there you go. That's we don't need to watch that again. It's a free piece of software. It runs on iOS and Android. It runs on Mac and it runs on PC. So there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to at least get your logo on your screen with a natural background, without a green screen, and without spending any money. That's it. And if you want to know more about how to take more control of your camera, there's tons of things that we could talk about once I know more about the situations you find yourself in when presenting. Okay. To wrap up today, and it doesn't look like I'm going to have a ton of time for questions, but we'll have plenty of time to work together. Åsa, how much time at the end do you need so I make sure to leave enough time for that? Did you want 3, 5-ish?
Yeah, I can just show where to find this because we're not going to
How
have
about
time to
this?
go through the presentation. So we can just show it's fine. I wanted to have maybe people to ask you questions first.
Okay, so how about this? Let's do this.
Yeah.
Instead of me covering just one more topic, how about we end it right here in terms of the content? As soon as we hang up, I'll record the last 10-minute segment and then give it to Nellie and she'll place it in wherever so you can watch the last segment, which is harnessing your speaking anxiety, which is a topic that you can watch anytime, anyway. And let's go through your questions and any stuff that we can finish up for you here today and leave it at that. What do you think? Åsa, you think that's
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, then let's stop the content right there and leave it and take whatever questions you have remaining, anything related to either my topics or to the program. This is your time. We have 23 minutes on the clock. Let's take whatever questions you have, and then when we're done for today. Go ahead, Scott. Thank you.
I can share a tip that's worked for our team. Maybe it would help some of you.
Sure.
So a lot of our team isn't comfortable, say on video or on with a camera, for example, on a computer. So something we've started internally is we use Slack for communications, right?
Yep.
And every morning, if you want to, and people are doing it now, is basically the first thing you could do is your good morning instead of being, say, like a text chat. You can use like Loom, for example, or whatever, to just do with your phone, talk to yourself. If you don't like it, delete it, do it again. And this has gotten our whole team to be more comfortable with it. And that will help not just in your team interactions, but also when, for example, if someone on the team needs to do a training video or talk to somebody or talk to an investor, whatever. It's a very cool way to do it because you start with your team first, right? How you talk to each other digitally. And that's helped us a lot.
That's great. Yeah, it almost seems like you reduce the stress of the exercise because you're not using it outward, you're using it inward. You all know each other and you're all doing it for the right reasons. And it's almost a head fake that the more they do it, the more they'll look forward to doing it. And then when the day arises where they need to send out a video message to a customer or a prospect or an investor, you'll be so dialed in to do that. And it'll mean so much more, not only for your internal communications, but of course for your external communications as well. Yeah, that's excellent, Scott. Thanks for sharing that. And that also reminds me to mention to you that there are very few people, all of you, that there are very few people out there that will do a video message. They'll do voicemail, they'll do email, but very few people will hop on Vimeo or YouTube or Zoom or Loom, like you said, and say, hey, Christopher, I was just thinking this morning, blah, 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 blah. I'm really looking forward to talking to you in a couple of days, but I just wanted to drop you this note beforehand. That's a 2-line message in an email. Dear Christopher, I recorded this this message for you. What do I call it? Usually I call it a stream of consciousness. I recorded the stream of consciousness to prepare you for our meeting or to add to our meeting in 2 days. They'll watch it. If it's a prospect, maybe they'll watch that too. Who knows? You know, if it's personal, if it's relatable, and if it's honest and authentic and not generated by an AI, they'll watch it. Yeah. So video messages can get you further, not just with cold, but with warm and developing a relationship with people if you just do it more often. It's not hard once you do like what Scott said and you become just comfortable leaving Scott a message. Maybe it's easier to leave a message for your own internal people by just hopping on a video call. Then they hear you, they see you, they feel you. Try to get that from an email or a Slack message. Hard to get feelings out of those messages. Icons, things like that maybe, but they hear and see you. It's like, oh my God, that's good. I never give feedback to people in this startup world for the first time unless it's video. I will not. I've made that mistake in the early part, and context is taken wrong, and people take what do you say the wrong. I try to do it with all my heart, but if your voice isn't part of it, and your face isn't part of it, and your body isn't part of that first time you're giving somebody some tough love, they will discount everything you say. So I learned my lesson the hard way. What other questions can we answer? Thank you for that one, Scott. Any other observations? Or we don't want to keep you if we're done. Nellie, is there any? Are you still with us? Is there anything that you need to tell this group? Christopher, go right ahead.
Yeah, I got a bit of another question. Like you mentioned in a brief sentence there, that it might be very important to incorporate in the US for investors. So I was just thinking about, like, how do we approach that topic in general? Like, what's the typical procedure look like in terms of process, costs? Is there any information to share on that? Would be great.
Process and costs of what again?
Yeah, incorporating in the US, like as that for US investors, it might be highly important for them to invest that you're established in the US. So how does that look like?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head because I've never done it. I know it's not hard. It's not that much money. You don't necessarily have to hire an expensive attorney to do it, but I wouldn't worry about it now. When you come here and you're not incorporated in Delaware like most everybody else does, then when an investor says, hey, we're really interested in you, Christopher, we'd like to have further conversations. How are you set here in the US? And then you tell them what you tell them. Hey, we're here. We're working with the Nordic Innovation House. We have an address that we can receive mail at. We're establishing our credibility here and our presence and blah, blah, blah. What do you need from us in order to invest in us? And ask them. And they say, oh, you need Delaware, you need corporate, blah, 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 blah. And then you say, okay. And then you don't have to have it to be here.
Yep.
You just may need it for them to write the check or term sheets.
We need to have the intention to set something up at some point, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So go ahead, Åsa.
Yeah, no, you said like cost-wise, probably somewhere between $2,500 to $4,000. But you could also do it for less, but it is, it depends on what kind of company, what you're going to do, right? If you're looking for funding, it's definitely Delaware. We will talk about that as well in the program, have someone actually also kind of come in and talk about a little bit about what to think about to set up in the US. And we have also some people that can do free, first sort of consultation. If you're thinking about doing it, I can give you some advice for free before you start engaging lawyers, but it is generally pretty good to use legal advice for some of these things. Yeah. Depending on how you're set up today and how complicated your company looks like.
Right.
I think, Tom, is that a follow-up to what we're talking about?
It's just I think just stated. It's a question, but I think it will sound like a statement. So basically, there's none of the kind of like investors will be spooked by not being incorporated in Delaware here.
Absolutely not. No. Yeah.
Awesome.
There's very different requirements, and you guys are early on, and you're here too. Yeah. So it's important to do it correctly when it's the right time. Right?
That's right. And you say that if you have to, you say, we haven't dabbled in that because we want to do it the right way.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure we establish the relationships first. Once we know that's in place, then we can get married and put the paperwork in place, right?
Yeah.
Sort of
Cool.
speaking.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Christopher, I do want to add one more piece to that. Quite often, especially when I'm talking to university students in entrepreneurship, they say, when should I present to investors? And my answer is always, anytime you can. But only ask for money when you're really ready. Don't even mention the word money. But meet with everybody and make friends and have them give you feedback and have them tell you you're missing this and missing that. And then 3 months later, you bump into them again and you say, now what do you think? And they go, wow, your story has changed pretty good. Oh, you have this traction going. That's pretty cool. And they get to know you. You know, it's a relationship like any other. The more people get to know you, see what you're doing, see the proof in your claims. Anybody can claim anything, but the proof over time, and then it just makes it so much easier 6, 8, 10 months after you leave the TINC program or whatever it is, not leave, but you can't leave. We told you that, right? But after you graduate, then you might have exactly the moment in time when you're raising a seed round. And now what do? You pick up your list of people you've got warm relations with. You just call them up.
Yeah, exactly. I just booked actually a US investor meeting while we're having this talk. So there was a New York-based investment firm that reached out to us by inbound. So happens.
That's a cool thing to have happen, to have people reach out to you. I mean, that's kind of a nice validation that there's something they read or saw about you that makes them want to know more. And the more you can pull, the better off, right? The more, but going out and looking for the right connections can often be a very nice balance to waiting around for that natural attraction to happen. But I'm happy for you. Must have felt good. Must have felt good.
Yeah, it's very good. Sure.
Oh, yeah. Good for you. Congrats.
Okay.
What else? Anything else?
Let's see.
No.
Yeah, if we're talking housekeeping, maybe
Yeah.
before we, sure. Still, I am. Eva has a mentor slot open tomorrow. Nelly, I know you were going to mention it. So, and she has very few. So tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific. So it's a pretty good time for you. We don't have any workshops tomorrow. So just wanted to put that out there. She has 2 this week. So
Eva's amazing. She's an amazing mentor.
And she's currently, and she's currently working very hard with her 11 portfolio companies. So that's why she doesn't have too much time. But you should be able to meet her at least once before you come. And then she has also set up time to meet with you while you're here. So that's something to take a look at. The other thing maybe, Nelly, we want to mention is we have this in the sign-up sheet also check-in with TINC team. So that's us, me and Nelly. And that's a lot of these introductions and getting, kind of doing a check-in, making sure everything's on track and that we don't wait till the program is over to bring certain things up when it's too late to correct. And also start thinking about, what you want to do when you're here, especially for those who are here that optional week. So we added also quite a few green time slots there this week and next. So take a look at it, just 30-minute sessions so that we can get started on that part. I think that was my housekeeping. Did you have anything else, Nelly?
No, just a quick reminder of the logos again. I know that some of you have been great at sending, and I'm missing a few. So that would be great if you want to send high resolution, preferably with a transparent background would be great. And yeah, the check-ins, that's great. It would be great if you want to book those with us.
And you're going to start posting on LinkedIn now for each company, just so we kind of introduce you. So the Google sheet that Nelly shared, the link, today now you worked on your email introduction, try to put those there. Any other information that's essential. That's kind of like where we're going to go and collect info from you. And I wanted to share, if it's okay, Nathan, I want to give some time back though, but maybe I can just share on the node where you find what I was just, and you're not on the node, Nathan, so I apologize for that.
No, that's okay. I don't typically need to be.
No, that's true.
So it's okay.
Let's
It's okay.
see, where did it go? Screens, documents. Maybe I'll just do this, so hang with me. And
I'll
then
stop
switch it.
spotlighting me for now.
Oh, yeah. Can
And
you
I'll
guys
spotlight
see?
you.
Maybe did I share?
No, not yet. There it goes.
Yeah. And you don't need to spotlight me.
There we go.
So this is on the node where you are, the TINC Spring program where you are up here, seeing real life. So on the overview section, that's kind of like things that you should read that goes overall through the program. And this meeting, Silicon Valley style, you click on that, then so I maybe need to move you guys to the other side here. Then you get a little bit of, advice in terms of, for introductions. There's a link I mentioned to Silicon Valley Etiquette, kind of on the double opt-in, what that is. Also the email templates here, same as in that Google sheet. And there's an example for a third party, and also a little bit of an example if you send directly, it could be people that you know yourself, right? And then a little bit of advice for meetings. And I also added this presentation that we could go through later, but we don't have time today. But I think take a look at it, and maybe we will find some time either before or, at least maybe before you come here. So you can just scroll through this yourself, but it's basically, let's see. Basically just tells you a little bit, how to connect, how to set up the meeting, or like how to get a meeting. First of all, the content of the email, we just talked about it, like what's in it for them, the sample emails, and also a little bit of a, importance of the reply that we talked about, how you reply to an intro, and an example on that as well. Not everybody knows how to, and it's not like you have to do it exactly like that, but it's super important that you thank the person that's introduced you. Like say if you ask Nathan, you ask a mentor, and then move the person to blind copy. So it's just like a standard, that goes pretty quick and shows your appreciation, right? Very much so. Some pretty basic but very important advice for meetings, because it's so easy to get carried away when you get to meetings. So would encourage you to take a look at that. Of course, here in the US, we're much more on, thank you and please, and a little bit of that politeness goes a long ways, but you have to also be very much to the point, because people tend to be very, they would say like, oh, hey, Oscar, oh, you're from Sweden. I went to Sweden last year, and blah. And then it's easy to get carried away on this personal little track, but then it's important to kind of get back to business. Like if people would never tell you here, if you waste their time or take too long, you talk the whole meeting, but it's really important to kind of remember while you're there that you really need to hear their response and their feedback, right? So that what Nathan was mentioning earlier about listening and not take too much time in the meeting. So this seemed very basic, but it is quite important, the relationship building. You have heard the pay it forward. We talked about it quite a bit in Oslo as well. And we talked about double opt-in, and a little bit on, the kind of like using your network, or I like to say relationships a little bit more, but just remembering these little things. So sorry that I'm just scrolling through it, but also a little bit about understanding the feedback you get, to not think that, oh, they're going to invest in us, we're getting a term sheet tomorrow because they said it's great. So all these little things, take a look when you have a chance at this one. Sorry that we went through that super fast.
Oh, some
Like,
good
let's-
examples in there for their emails if they're still
Yeah, absolutely.
fine tuning
Yeah.
their emails and whatnot. Because
Yep.
you might need a couple, one or two different emails or different
Mhm.
sections depending on who you're approaching. So
Yep.
that's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Okay, so that was just so you know where it is on the note. So just wanted to point it out. Good. I think we should try to give you. Oh, wow, we only have 6 minutes. We should at least give you 5 minutes back on the clock.
All
But thank
right.
you, Nathan. This was our last full day with you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We won't see you until the companies come here all together, but everyone can book with you. So thank you
Yep.
for your generosity in offering that. And
Sure
you
thing.
know, don't wait till the end. But
Mhm.
book with Nathan. It's not like you're going to go away here with a check or a term sheet. Maybe someone do. Sometimes it has happened, but the goal is that you walk away with a good, clear value proposition pitch that you can use going forward. And it's really the process to get there. That's
Right.
almost the most valuable.
Yeah.
It saves you a lot of time going forward, and you will be much more clear.
Yep.
Also for your Nordic contacts and partners, customers, and investors, right? Makes a big difference. So thank you, Nathan, for always
thing.
your high quality content on many levels. So
My pleasure.
with
More where that came from. Stay safe,
more where
everybody. We'll
that
see you
came from.
soon.
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Have a good night. See you Thursday, 11
Right.
a.m. Pacific.
Have a good night.
Have a
Bye,
good
everyone.
night.
Bye.